Hey everyone, welcome to another rousing episode of the Orita podcast. Omar, I don't know if you know this, but originally the title was I'm old enough to know whom to interview in e-commerce. And I've been circling you guys for a while. I'm actually reasonably new in the Klaviyo ecosystem, a couple years old, and both of your names keep coming up and up and up. When I ran a brand, it was a MailChimp company. This was a very, very long time ago, and I'm so
MailChimp.
sad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was so sad. I mean, I have a great MailChimp t-shirt, but I was very sad I didn't get to spend the time in the Klaviyo ecosystem back then. And the two of you just pump out incredible content and your reputations precede you. So I'm Aaron Schwartz, one of the co-founders of Orita. We do AI customer segmentation. We will not be talking much about Orita today. This is about the two of you. And so I want to get out of the way and have you each introduce yourself. And of course, we are starting with the one and only Klaviyo legend. So Omar, take it away. And then Bogdan, whatever you say is fine. Omar will carry the show for us.
All right. No pressure. No. I mean, anyway, awesome. Amazing to be on this podcast. Thanks for the invitation. Also, great to see that what we started out, like Bogdan and I started out with some time ago, is catching on. People are really liking the content. So getting these invites to also appear on other shows is really, really cool. So thanks for that. A little bit about myself. I've been into this online world for a long time, starting somewhere around 1998, building websites back then. Got bored of building the websites, moved into actually, I did have an ESP, email service provider called SendMail, based in the Netherlands. Like the mails, there's always these windmills around here. So SendMail was the platform I used to have. Did get a lot of competition from MailChimp back then, so basically stopped that and focused solely on conversion rate optimization. At a certain point, I got bored because I was getting limited by the amount of things that I could do only on the website. And I wanted to kind of cover more of the customer journeys. Moved into Klaviyo. I got introduced by someone that I really look up to. Kind of like opened my views on kind of like getting back into that email world by using Klaviyo in 2017, more or less. That was Drew Sanoki. I had the pleasure to finally meet him in person at Klaviyo Boston last month. And basically that's where we kind of like where I started. And then in 2020, we founded Polaris. Back then I used to work with with a partner as well. And Bogdan was actually one of the first people to actually join our team. So
yes,
he then went off and did other things. I'll let him introduce himself. We've been in contact ever since. And yeah, like Polaris Growth is the agency that we run. And we basically help customers with growth through Klaviyo CRM, through CRO, and also moving into like customer journey optimization a bit more. I've been a Klaviyo champion for whenever the program starts, like an ambassador program that Klaviyo introduced, and recently indeed named Klaviyo Legend. That's a mouthful, but I hope it covers most of the things. Oh, and I'm based in the Netherlands, got two beautiful daughters, teenagers. Getting into that puberty things as well, sometimes frustrating, but still lovely. Seeing them grow as well, and with a lovely wife here in The Hague. So, yeah. Over to you, Bogdan.
Oh, it's hard to follow up on that, man. Jeez, always
Aaron.
living in my co-host's shadow. That's what I like to say.
I think Aaron kind of like raised his hands.
No,
yeah.
Well, before Bogdan talk, like your old intern, we need to have him wait at least a minute or two. I have two daughters, 7 and 9, so I will be following up one-on-one separately. But I was going to say, you mentioned in passing Drew Sanoki. For those who don't know, Drew's one of the co-CEOs and co-founders of Postpilot, which is an incredible company. Amazingly on the retention side, yes, on growth, but maybe we'll come back to Postpilot a little bit later. But I at least wanted to make sure folks knew who Drew was, who you mentioned. All right, take it away.
Yeah, no, thanks, Aaron. Right. So yeah, for those that don't know me, my name is Bogdan. I am based in London, United Kingdom, where right now it's very cold and rainy, but nothing new. I run EmailCon, which is a CRM and retention agency. We've been doing that for the last 5 years. We started very basic, just email marketing, then added SMS, and started to become a little more complex. Now, since Klaviyo is the only CRM for B2C, we're kind of riding that wave of CRM. So trying to make our service a little bit more mature if I may say that. I guess today is less about just myself, and it's about me and Omar. I've known Omar also for the last 5 years. I met him on Upwork. He met me on Upwork. He found me on Upwork. I was one of the first email marketing specialists, as he called them at the time, for Polaris Growth. It was a fantastic time that I really, really enjoyed. It's actually the reason why Klaviyo Geeks, which is our podcast, exists in the first place, because Omar and I, we used to kind of just chat on Slack, and then saying like, hey, let's chat about this quick thing that, very quickly. And we would jump on a Zoom call and we would just geek out for like 2 hours, lose all the time in the day just to talk about like automations and data and all this sort of things. And time would just fly by us. And then I kind of went to do a couple of other things for myself. I was head of marketing automation for a SaaS company here in the UK. Afterwards, I came back to EmailCong, and I realized that that's my first love, Klaviyo, and working with e-commerce, kind of what I did for Polaris as well, but decided to kind of start my own agency. I reconnected with Omar in London 2 years later, or a year and a half later. We went to this incredible Indian place in Mayfair, which I'm still dreaming about. I haven't been since. And it was just like we basically never stopped working together. We had like such great chats, and then since then we've been just chatting on WhatsApp every day. I joined his meetups in Amsterdam, which was fantastic, and all the great. Yeah, I'm doing your own plugs for you. All the great stuff that we would talk, like, everyone was like, oh, you guys have such great chemistry, and like you work so well with each other. You should do a podcast together. I think someone said to me once in October last year, and I just went to Omar. I was like, this is it, man. We have to do it. And that's how Klaviyo Geeks was born. And that's just very, I guess, not so quick intro about myself.
That's perfect. And also, you're allowed to speak about yourself too, not just the combination. I'm actually going to start with maybe trying to find some points of contrast. What are the biggest points of debate you have related to not life? Let's keep it narrow on Klaviyo and retention lifestyle. Yeah. Let's go deep in politics, guys. This will be fun. Retention marketing. Where are the debates that you find yourselves having, and who's on what side? I want to have like a really quick one, right? Omar, what is he most wrong about is maybe a better way to put this.
Find it hard. I'm not sure if we're really debating a lot of things.
We're not. I mean, well, oftentimes we find common ground. I think what I was saying earlier before we went live is Omar and I are slightly different in the way that we think. He's very analytical, data-driven, a lot more conventional, I would say. I am a little bit, I like to call myself cheeky. I like to be non-conventional, maybe break the rules a little bit, kind of think outside of the box and find creative ways of achieving what I want to achieve. And that's kind of where Omar and I sort of meet in the middle, where sometimes we come up with really great things to talk about because he comes with one view on things and I come with a completely opposite, but they sort of just complement quite well on various topics that we talk about. But oftentimes it's not that we disagree on things, it's that we challenge each other, and we challenge each other to think differently. Like these podcasts for me that I do with Omar, they've been a learning as well, because every time he mentions something, I was like, I didn't think about it like that. And then I go back and even myself and I implement things that we talk about. I remember he mentioned this one thing, I think it was one of his meetups. It was like the segment that everyone needs to create in Klaviyo is a simple segment, received email at least 3 times in the last 24 hours, and then exclude that from your ongoing campaigns, because someone received 3 emails during a 24-hour period, it's probably you don't need to email them one more time. And I was like, this is just clever. It's just genius, because I was using Smart Send Time, which is oftentimes, it can limit who you reach if you use Smart Send Time. And I was like, man, that's really clever. But anyway, yeah, Omar, what do you think? Do you think we have opposite views on things?
One of our podcasts, we actually mentioned that don't assume anything. So I think in that sense, we kind of like challenge each other indeed. So indeed, yeah, what Bogdan said, like we might have different approaches on things. I also have a lot of like insight from CRO, from other sides of like the customer journey. A lot of technical, like, hey, this is possible. We can actually do this. Technical input, kind of like, hey, how can we build this out? How can we make this work? So it kind of like builds up on top of each other. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna try it out to see. Maybe it's something in my views that I'm completely misaligned on. So it's basically input. It's just input on like, hey, do we need to improve things? So I'm not sure if we can actually have big disagreements on things.
Just to be clear, my objective today was to talk about politics and to get you guys fighting and break you up so I could enter the friendship, but it's not working. So I'm 0 for 2.
Not working out.
All right. So Bogdan, let's go into because you describe yourself as cheeky and Omar is much more analytical. Forget the two of you debating. What about with EmailCong? What are some of the things that like you're learning from Omar that you kind of changed even how your team approaches or when you yourself are inspecting a business?
So in terms, I think Omar has been in the industry a lot longer than I have. He taught me a lot of the things in the beginning that I know now about Klaviyo. I think kind of going back to what you said earlier about never assume anything, that's one huge thing I've learned from him. I always used to just do things. Just all right, we want to create this campaign, let's just send it out. We want to create this flow, let's just create. I think with Omar, he oftentimes thinks more critically in terms of like, well, let's pause here a little bit. Aspects of this can we test, or what can we do differently about it? And that we had an entire episode kind of just focused around this, where it was like, never assume anything, never think that something is as it is just because you hear it left and right. Always try and think critically for yourself. It's what we try and teach our own audience as well that listens to us on Klaviyo Geeks. But I think that's kind of the main thing I've learned from him, just to always test things, to always challenge your own thinking, because for him it's not just the email marketing side of things. Oftentimes we find ourselves working in silo, because I always just did email marketing in the beginning. Now I'm finding myself, like we went to Valencia at the beginning of this year, and he was the one that inspired me to think broader, to just not just be fixed on email marketing. It's so much more than that. It's about customer journey optimization. It's about CRM. It's about taking the entire ecosystem of that sort of back-end journey and trying to put it all together. He showed me this beautiful flowchart one time. We were chatting on WhatsApp, where he kind of connected different, like the acquisition with the retention, with the different channels. Have a respondent here, then get in touch with them here, direct mail. It was everything. And I was like, this is what we need to do. This is the future, right? And that's kind of what I always learn from him.
Omar and Bogdan, that's really helpful, right? Like thinking about the whole end-to-end system, right? It's always like you can optimize a single button and you can get more clicks, but if you get fewer purchases down the road, that was the wrong optimization, right? And Omar, I get the sense that you are a very big systems thinker. When you think about Polaris and like your work with a brand, if a brand comes in, are they coming in for normally a discrete issue and it's like, hey, we're having retention issues, our email numbers are down? Or is it, we think about CRO? How do you kind of, because there's unlimited things to inspect and, every brand is different. Where do you end up focusing on kind of day one with most of your customers?
I think, Polaris nowadays is really known also for Klaviyo, because that's the thing I'm kind of like announcing a lot everywhere. Like with the Klaviyo meetups that we're hosting in Amsterdam every month. There's so many things that I'm doing on Klaviyo side, but we also like work on CRO side specifically. So when people enter and start to have a conversation, most of it is around, hey, we need help with our Klaviyo setup. And it varies. For me, the main thing that I always start off with is, okay, where are you now? Why are you reaching out? What are you expecting? Most of the times, if a brand is reaching out to us, is because they are not getting the results they want. They don't have the knowledge. There's lack of time. They need resources to kind of like help with that. And for me, it's really important to understand, okay, where they are at this point, what's going wrong, what are their goals, what they want to go toward, what are they actually doing or tried already themselves, to have an understanding of, if we're going to be working together, how do you create impact? And it's not only about sending emails. I think emails is maybe the means to get the results. You have to create a strategy around it. I don't know, looking at, is it on the acquisition side? Is it on the retention side? Is it like, are we having things going out at the wrong time? Like once we start understanding where the gaps are, that's where we actually can say, okay, it's basically prioritizing, trying to understand, okay, where in the customer journey are we losing the most? Like, are you pushing traffic to the website and it's not converting? Actually, we should be focusing maybe on some pre-purchase activities. Like even with Klaviyo, with CRM, you can actually help with increasing conversion rates. And from all the tests that we've done, combining CRO and also like pop-up testing and stuff like that, we see that we can have an impact on conversion rates. But like, do we need to be focusing on that side, or do we need to focus on the retention side of things and really understanding, okay, like where are we going to put efforts to get the best results? There's like a value tree mapping, which nowadays I don't actually map out, like painting it out, drawing it out anymore. It kind of like happens automatically. But basically, if you have revenue, for example, as a goal, like there are only a couple of things that you can do and have an impact on to increase that revenue. Driving more people to the site, increasing the conversion, making sure that people buy more products from you in each purchase, and having them come back more often. So those are already 4 things. If you can like identify which ones are underperforming, then you know, okay, we need to be starting there. So that's bit the process that we go through.
It's
And
super
once we
helpful.
identify it, yeah,
I mean, just being able to look at the whole business and, there are 400 tactics you could do underneath each of those. And then there are different ways to measure each one, but identifying where the highest leverage is at any given point makes a ton of
yes.
sense.
But most of the times, people are always looking at like, what are the 100 things that we can do to increase this? Like, there's so many tactics that you can apply. Without a good strategy, you'll be trying to apply all these tactics. It will take you years to kind of like go through all the things that are getting identified. So having some understanding and guidance on, okay, this can have this impact, and having that knowledge actually helps to prioritize things in a correct way as well.
Bogdan, do you want to jump in on this?
No, I mean, I think Omar covered it pretty well. I was very distracted. I was like, my Klaviyo microphone looks so cool.
It is very, I saw you leaning in and I was like, what's he? Oh, okay. Okay. He's just admiring his view. I get it. No.
Yeah. No. I'm all happy with Omar's answer. Sorry, I got distracted with my
You're good,
microphone.
man.
I'm sorry, everyone.
It's rough for you because you're on the spot to give some actual tactics.
Yeah.
Bogdan also has a lot of things. Like I've learned a lot from Bogdan as well. I mean, it's interesting that we kind of like teach each other things as well around automations, around also uses of AI and how to like operate quicker on things or better, but also with I don't know, just how to set up things on the agency side. We kind of like challenge each other. So it's always, in a way, it almost feels like we're working together, but we're competitors at the same time.
Different P&Ls.
I was going to say bitter rivals who partner nicely. Let's go into this. I want to do some like basic tactics. I don't mean basic like send emails, right? Like you guys are the Klaviyo geeks, as you know. I want to talk a little bit about like what are the kind of like obvious places where like what are overlooked workflows, right? You kind of shared the example before from Omar about, somebody's received 3 emails in the last 24 hours and hasn't clicked. But what are the opportunities that you think most brands have within Klaviyo right now? And then in a little bit, we can talk definitely about AI and Gen AI, both like in terms of the creative and the production side, but also in terms of running an agency. So Bogdan, you first. Like if you could get every brand to do a couple of key activities, what would they be?
100%. I actually just finished a YouTube video around this, which I haven't published yet. But
we can link to it. I'm a Thinkfluencer, so I'll comment and it will get.
No, it's not live yet. It's meant to go live at some point this month. But anyway, so look, I audit many brands every month, and we're starting to get a lot more interest from higher mid-market brands. And it's funny how a brand that sort of just very sort of beginner stages versus a really high up mid-market brand, they have literally the same mistakes that they're doing. Their setup is identical, and some of the biggest opportunities that I'm seeing is one in flow timings. People keep focusing on these basic timings that they get perhaps from the Klaviyo flow templates or from some sort of like Klaviyo guru that they found on Upwork, which is funny because Omar found me on Upwork as well.
Back then there were only a couple of them, by the way, Bogdan. Nowadays it's like multiplied by 2,000 or something.
Yeah, it's insane. So first of all, one that's very common. You don't need 10 emails in your welcome flow. Most people convert within the first 24 to 48 hours. So just focus all of your content angles within that timing. Send one email right away, send an SMS 15 minutes later, send another follow-up 2 hours later, perhaps a plain text coming from the founders like, hey, Omar, I saw that you subscribed. I see you're interested in our 6-pack, mock-ups, do you need any help? Can we, here's a FAQ link, whatever. Then send another email, perhaps 2 hours later with a bit more urgency. Your highest leverage is within those first 24 to 48 hours. You don't need to wait a full day to follow up on someone. By the time you send them an email the second day at 10 p.m. or 7 a.m., regardless of when you send it, the momentum, the dopamine hit of that person coming from your ad on your website, really wanting to buy something, it's been gone. It faded away. They might not even have the money to buy it anymore, right? Because they spend it somewhere else. So that's one. Same thing goes in checkout, browser ban, all the retargeting flows, right? Send the first email super fast, 30 minutes to an hour, depending. You can test this as well. And then try and follow up with more frequency within the first 24 to 48 hours. Because regardless of someone coming from a pop-up, right? So the conversion time from subscription to pop-up to purchase is the same as the time between someone putting their email address on your checkout page to purchase if they don't purchase right away and they don't do it within the entire session. Most people convert within that 48-hour window. So just create your flows and the timings of your flows with your actual customer data in mind. Now with just templates, right? This makes me take a little dig at Klaviyo, which obviously they're releasing their AI features now. And what I've seen and what they're suggesting in there is also like a bit flawed, where their AI marketing agent says, oh, you have an abandoned car flow. You should send the second email a day later. I'm like, no, you shouldn't, Klaviyo. You probably should send it a lot earlier. So, these are some of the things that some of the I guess, concerns I have initially with AI agents that can analyze things, because where are they getting that data? Where are they getting the information that we think they're supposed to suggest to us? Are they getting it from a help desk, of like Q&A or stuff, or they're getting it from like actual people that have worked in the industry? So anyway, that's another conversation for another time. But these are just some of the quickest wins. Look at your flows and readjust your timings. That's it.
It's super helpful. I mean, one thing that I'm kind of hearing, if I'm pulling out, but Omar, I want you to jump in and correct, is there is no average model and there is no average brand and there is no average consumer. And so when you build AI models, if you build it across all brands, what will end up happening is you will have the subscription business, you'll have the high consideration cycle long, very expensive couch company. You will have the like one and done shopper who comes from TikTok. You'll have the like really engaged people who engage with email all the time brands. And when you try to build that model on all that data, you actually just come back to average, which means it's not actually right. So the once a day, 24-hour lag might be right for a brand. But what I'm hearing you say is like, you need to deeply inspect for your brand and make sure it's correct. Is that a fair?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So just look at what the data is telling you and try and align that sort of journey with those timings. It might be 24 hours for some. It might be, like if you're a high AOV brand, you might not want to send too many follow-ups within the first 24 hours because you might sort of annoy that person if you're selling jewelry or furniture, as you say, right? But you might want to have some sort of concierge service where you send them a WhatsApp, which is now available within European markets, where it's like, hey, we see that you've done this. So yeah, just use common sense and critical thinking.
The flip side is if you're a t-shirt company and you're going to buy a t-shirt from one place or the other and you're not a premium, right? But if you're a basics, it's like, actually the person is ready now, go get them.
Yeah.
I love it. Omar, please jump in around this topic or other tactics that you think are just like deeply underappreciated right now.
Well, and what Bogdan said, like a mid-market, even the ones that are starting, seeing the same things appearing, things that I've actually had to completely, and this was actually on LinkedIn, one of a good performing LinkedIn posts that I had, like, what were the things that you were, how did I write it again? Things
they used to believe in.
Yeah. Things that
you
used
don't
to believe,
anymore.
You don't anymore. Like, what changed? What were those things and what changed? Like, it, for me, and this is something that Bogdan and I, we have been discussing a lot, not sending enough, basically. Most people, brands, they have a database of X amount of people, let's say 100,000. The one thing that I'm starting to do in all audits and seeing over and over again that they're using so much segmentation that they only end up sending to a small portion of their list and never send to the whole list. So they're like, yeah, you need to send engagement segments. Like everybody's screaming engagement segments and creating segments and being really specific to the customers you're sending to. But in the end, you end up sending to only the ones that are engaging. And if you start looking at that over time, you see that group is also declining.
And it keeps increasing more and more as well. It's like, because the velocity of adding traffic to the top of the funnel is a lot higher than the churn. So what happens is that you add more people at the top of the funnel, the engaged segment grows with recent people. And all of those in the past, they keep kind of churning out more and more. So you end up with like 50-60% of your list that hasn't been emailed in a while.
The one thing that we see, it's less that they're churning out. It's that they're sitting there and not being tapped into. And so it's just like, hey, it's a dead contact, or hey, Klaviyo charges on active. Let's remove people because she didn't engage. She never wants to hear from me again. And there isn't an understanding that actually the medium and long-term customer might come back because they saw some ad or it's been a year and a half and they're actually interested in your brand again.
Yeah.
100%.
So you're not always in market. So people are not always looking for a product. So that's definitely one of the things that, yeah, I think there was one brand we worked with and they were sending every day with resends every day. I was like, okay, this is too much. And for them, in this case, it was too much because we were actually seeing a big shrinking of the database. But it's, yeah, like if you're going to start limiting that and the segments, you will see that the reach will also, we're just casting a smaller net. So there's like the recent audit I did, I saw that there were only email like 25% of the database. The 75% never was able to re-engage again. And because they were not doing top of funnel really well, that 25% was actually shrinking every month. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then, yeah,
Can I
even
say
big
a funny
brands,
thing?
you go ahead.
A funny thing, just while sorry to interrupt you. Like I audited this brand just last week, and I noticed an exclusion segment that they've been using, which is like so silly. It's like opened email 0 times over all time. That was it. There was no received email criteria in there. So essentially, anyone that has never opened an email would always be excluded. And that segment can grow really fast because it's not everyone opens your emails all the time. So if you don't add in, there's like, hey, received email at least 12 over the last 30 days and open email 0 times, right? Like you sent 12 emails in the, right? That segment had 50,000 people and they kept excluding it for the last 18 months.
And
I
they're
was
paying
like,
for it.
and they're paying for it and they're killing their own
That's
LTV. And my head was hurting. I was like, who advised you to use that? So it's these type of mistakes that, people just, they don't think twice about things, right? They, as we say, like they don't, hey, wait a minute, let me just think again about this. Like, am I doing the right thing? Like just challenge yourself.
And I think
Yeah,
one
but it's
framing,
like, that's the one of the things, like with the AI features that Klaviyo is pulling out, everything seems so simple nowadays, but there's way more things to it most of the time. So because it seems so simple, people are setting up things without really thinking about it, which if you're starting out, like setting up the basic, having more flows in there is just a good thing. But at a certain point, you need to kind of like look into, okay, are we firing 3 flows at the same time, or like having a poor customer experience? Do we need to kind of like tweak things, timings and stuff like that? So, but to get back to the point, like sending more, that's definitely one thing that's broadening that group, broaden the amount of sends. Even with a BFCM coming up, instead of sending like 5 emails, if you have 5 emails planned, double that. Or maybe if it's like the Friday email, if you only have 1 email, maybe send 2 or 3 and see what happens. I mean, this is like, these are things that are like low hanging fruits that you can actually implement to kind of like boost things. Make sure that you have automations on every step of the customer journey. That's something we started mapping out right now, like for most of our clients. We're basically looking into what is happening in that whole journey when they're starting to get emails, also with the e-commerce platforms that are sending order confirmations and stuff, like really mapping that out to have an understanding. Like, are we having a good customer experience? Most of the time you have like all these different tools that are also sending things out. So maybe like creating a good overview to see, okay, what's happening and are we having a good experience? Because people also unsubscribe if like they receive 5 emails within 2 minutes. The other one is like try to optimize your pop-ups. That's something that we do with all our clients. We run 1 or 2 A/B tests every month to see if we can get higher rates, either changing the incentives, changing the design, the copy, the timing. Recently, we had a big win again. Like this is something like most of our customers that come in, this is like one of the first things that we kind of revamp. And then seeing doubling of numbers or three folds of numbers is, yeah, it's just cash that you're unlocking. And on the conversion side, we already know because we've tested this so often that it also increases site conversion rates. So this is, yeah, definitely a tweak to implement.
it's really helpful context. One quick aside, and then I want to jump in on the AI tooling side for a minute. I think, and again, I ran a brand for a decade, so I was definitely this marketer. So I'm not throwing shade at marketers, but I think email marketers forget that they're also consumers. And they think about automating and they think about volume and they like, to your point, read a rule of thumb somewhere and they implement it. And they don't actually think, if I were a buyer of this customer, would this be the right experience for me? And I think the like sense check just as a consumer and asking your team and signing your team up and being like, does this feel good? And for some brands, 4 emails in 24 hours actually does feel right because it's that type of product. And for others, it's just like, this is overwhelming. I don't like this. And I think obviously you need to follow the data, but I do think there's a level of put on your consumer hat, take off your marketer hat, and just experience it.
Add to that, and that's actually with, maybe this is a good bridge, but with AI helping and improving it and making some of the work of us that we're doing quicker, like creating things probably over and in a year time, some of the things we don't need to create anymore that can be automated, which allows us to get time to start talking to customers, because this is, I think, if you're talking about like a golden nugget, talking to your customers is one of the things that actually unlocks this. So yes, put on your customer hat is one part, but just picking up the phone and reaching out to customers and calling them, that will unlock a lot of things. Of course, you need to still ask the right questions, but having that customer insight will give you additional depth. And that's
Very
actually
much.
where talking about customer value optimization and that whole customer, like trying to optimize for lifetime value, that's actually what needs to be done. You need to be talking to your customers, sending out surveys, trying to map out what are their goals and stuff. And I put a couple of blog posts on this on the Klaviyo blog. Maybe we can link to it because this like covers this topic really, really high
Really
over,
good
but
stuff.
also in
Really good
depth.
stuff.
That's what I hope like with AI will
No,
allow
I mean,
us to go.
the thing that is missed, I think, right now is people are looking to drive up a number today. And it makes sense. The CEO's like, hey, we need email to go better. Email's struggling year over year, whatever. And the reality is like, you should be thinking about LTV. And the more that you can drive up LTV of your existing customers, the more you can actually spend to acquire new customers. And it is very hard to break out of that cycle. Bogdan, jump in, please.
I was going to say, I think Klaviyo has done the greatest thing and the worst thing since they came with this platform. The greatest thing they've done is they came up with the, Klaviyo attributed revenue, the CAV, how they call it internally, right? It's also the worst thing they've done because I see CEOs and founders of big, 100 million plus per year companies, and same as the founders that just get started, literally focusing just on that. And it's the same problem over and over again. We get bogged down on that 1%, which can mean very little. In reality, you can adjust the attribution, you can send more, you can have more flows, you can have more touch points to really boost that up. What does that mean for your profitability? What does that mean for your back-end metrics, your purchase frequency, your LTV? And they don't, I like, without giving any names, but again, I had a call with this founder of a really, really cool brand, successful brand, and he showed me some of the metrics that he was looking at, and I was shocked to see that his holy grail metric was attributed revenue from Klaviyo. I'm like, is that how you assess your health, your retention health, just by looking at attributed revenue from Klaviyo? I was like, yes, what else is there? There's so much more. It's crazy. Yeah, I think they done a great thing because they allowed us agencies and freelancers to have something to show our worth. We're gonna add 50K, 100K, 200K to your attributed revenue. But then it also they did the worst thing by teaching the e-com operators to focus on the same metric, and that's where I'll end my.
No, I think it's.
And then
Omar, I actually want to bring this back to Drew for a minute. One of the debates we have, not debates, but like kind of debates, I guess, with some customers, like prospects, is about Klaviyo attributed revenue. And it is a very good directional metric. But we would argue if Omar is going to buy, you should not send him an email because he's going to buy. And sending an email is only creating risk. He might not click, which hurts your deliverability. He might actually unsubscribe because he's like, all right, enough. I don't want to hear from these guys right now. And the flip side is, propensity to buy models and AI models tend to just be like, yo, somebody's going to buy, hit them up, text them, email, whatever. And the reason I was thinking about Drew and Postpilot is the opportunity with every channel is really diving in on incrementality. So yes, direct mail will work, but which segments does direct mail work? Klaviyo works, but not everybody's buying because of Klaviyo or an email being sent, right? But it will grab the attribution. Same with any channel. Obviously, this isn't like a single platform issue, but incrementality is actually the name of the game. I just think when you're working in this ecosystem, it is extraordinarily difficult to talk to the person who is thinking about the entire P&L, right? And actually is following that, like you're saying, Bogdan, like it's the customer health, or Omar, to your point, like it's the LTV that ultimately matters.
Yeah. And I think the issue is for them, talking about e-commerce founders, operators, is also they have to justify the cost of having this agency managing this channel. And for them, it's the easiest thing in the world to associate what they're paying versus what they're getting, which is, hey, you've made us this much money from Klaviyo. Okay, that's good enough for me. At least I can show my team or my CEO or whoever I'm talking to that, we made an ROI on that. And for them, like, but if I go to them and like, look, we have like an incremental, whatever, like purchase frequency reduced from 7 to 6. And he's like, what does that even mean? What does that mean for me, for my, did we make more money this month than last month? That's the question I get most often on my Slack channel, or more money this year than last year. And it's because I like what you said, Aaron, but how do you ride that wave of finding a good balance between being, I was chatting with, I'm going to shout out Ben Zettler from Zettler Agency Media, whatever his agency is called, Digital, that was it. And then we actually agreed on one thing, the fact that nowadays it's actually better to keep things really simple when it comes to reporting with your clients. Just a couple of bullet points, very top level metrics. Hey, and this is what's happening. This is how many campaigns we send. This is what flows we have live. This is kind of what the main metrics show. And most people kind of are fine with that because they just can't be bothered to look more into that. And it was funny because when you look at, when I look at acquisition, I look at media teams, like pay media teams, they are a lot more fixated on deep metrics. And I don't get why on retention we can do the same. It's the same thing. And it's like, I don't know. I've always been quite puzzled by that.
It's also because we were living in a silo. I think we kind of like you need to have the view of the whole journey. And talking about like lifetime value is the ultimate thing that we're talking about. And then not revenue based, but profit based. Like what is the lifetime value of a customer? That is actually where we should actually be having that conversation. But there's also maturity in companies that are starting to see this. Like competition is getting fierce. Prices are rising. We have all these tariffs and stuff in the US. Like it's getting harder. So profitability is actually something that's becoming more important. I've been playing around with this idea already, but maybe I'll just go out and have a developer build this to kind of like have a small thing to send profits to Klaviyo instead of revenue. Because once you see the profits in Klaviyo, I think you're talking about a different thing altogether. Like revenue is always going to be the biggest thing. Most people don't look into like how much discount do we, like incentives also like break down the amount of money that you make. So really looking into like, are we doing profitable work within the things? And even with the Klaviyo attributed revenue, there are limitations to it. But if it's a baseline and everything is measured at the same time, you can still see how we're progressing over time. And then you just need to find a way to see if this having an impact on revenue as well. Like, do they correlate with each other? That's,
I think
it's hard, but yeah.
It's what you always say about open rates, right? If open rates are really high, you're fine. You don't need there's a point at which you probably don't, like if it's 50, 60, 70, it doesn't matter because, it's probably inflated at some point. But if open rates are 5%, then that's a reason for concern. It's a health indicator, right? So same with Klaviyo attribute revenue. If you're attribute revenue from Klaviyo, like you're a brand doing 7 figures and it's 5% or 6%, most likely you're not hitting all those touch points on the flows. You're not sending enough campaigns. You're not doing enough. But if it's 30%, there's a point at which if it goes higher than that, it doesn't really matter anymore. So I kind of think is the same.
Yes, but
it's a health indicator.
It gives an indication. With open rates, if it's like 60, 70%, you're probably not sending to enough people. That's one. Like it's for me already, hey, we should.
That's another way to look at it. Yeah.
If revenue is like, if percentage of revenue in Klaviyo, that's the way I look at it. If it's like 60%, I'm like, oh wait, you're probably not doing too much top of funnel. Yeah. So you're leaning a lot on the Klaviyo side of things. And maybe it's just organic traffic that's coming in. So you're not doing top of funnel work. And that kind of like has different impacts there as well. So that still gives you an indication. It's like asking the right questions to kind of like find out, okay, but why? And what are the things that you're doing to, like, what do you want to grow? Like I've had a company recently where I talked to that they already were like at 56%, like what do you want me to help with? And then I found out a lot of their, like all the automation that they had, like they had 20, 25, 30% discounts in them. I was like, okay, we can have an impact on that because I think this is hurting your bottom line. But yeah, those are like the discussions to have and try to understand, okay, well, what does this actually mean? And is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think going back to kind of the systems perspective is, and Bogdan pulling in what you're just saying, there are indications and now you need to go inspect and figure out, but it's at least a signpost. You should look here. I actually want to quickly dive into deliverability, and I'm going to give some context that this is my number one bugaboo right now, where there will be brands with a 0.05% click rate. I mean, like a nothing click rate, right? Not a 0.5, but like 0.05. And they'll say, well, we're not in spam because our seed test is positive, like it's good, and our Klaviyo deliverability score is high. And we look at it and we're like, well, I actually have a friend who has you in spam. And the seed test is very good at telling you if you are in spam, but will give a lot of false negatives if you're not in spam. And your Klaviyo deliverability score can be high because literally nobody's getting your email, so they don't click spam. And so therefore, like, the spam metric looks bad. I know you guys had a discussion about deliverability. Teach me, what am I missing and what are companies missing right now as they think about inbox placement?
Deliverability is not very black and white. I posted a video about it a while back. It can be interpreted in many different ways. For me, I don't find very few of these platforms out there very reliable when it comes to testing whether you place in spam or in primary inbox. No one can really tell you that. I think what you can do is just look at your own data. I think for me, a 0.05% click rate, it's insanely low. You definitely have some issues there. But I think for me, it's just you take it very basic, right? First of all, deliverability is defined by open rate primarily. I think that's what defines. If you have a low open rate, most likely it's less about the fact that you had a poor subject line, and it's more about the fact that you're not landing somewhere where the customer can see you, whether that's the primary inbox or the promotions tab, which is very, considered devil nowadays. It's not really devil. Actually, the promotions tab has a lot more cooler features than the primary tab nowadays, where you can actually show products at the top. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that now. And then if your click rate is low, obviously it can be related to the fact that not enough people are seeing your emails, but also depending on how you define click rate, whether you look at click rate or click-through rate, that also defines whether your content is relevant enough, right? Like if you have a low click-through rate, looks at the ratio between clicks and opens, it means that people just don't like your content. So there's, and then if you have a low conversion rate or placed order rate, the offer was not good enough, or you didn't send to the right people, or the site is not optimized enough. So it's like there's different layers to it. When it comes to deliverability, for me, it's, if you're a brand that has just started out, you definitely want to start sending to the classic, to the engaged segments. You want to start kind of gradually increase that while kind of monitoring all of these metrics, making sure that they don't plummet too much. I think there's a lot of tricks you can do out there, which people don't really believe in. I personally believe in. I think that we have these touch points in a lot of our flows, and we do it monthly with our clients on campaigns as well, where we regularly ask clients to move us into the primary tab manually, to reply to our emails. We encourage them to reply to our emails, whether it was fun campaign, where it's like we tell them to guess a riddle, whether it's simply asking them to reply to let us know what they can improve about the product. We had a campaign with a brand that sold watches, where we literally asked them to reply whether they want early access to a new release of the watch. We had like over 1,000 people reply. Do you have any idea what that does to your deliverability? How positive that signal intent is for spam filters versus an open or a click? Yeah, I think it's just kind of having a bit of a checklist, which, by the way, KlavioGeeks.com, there's a checklist in there that you can download. It's pretty cool. Go in there and get it.
Let's go. Great.
Why do you think we chose that name, Aaron? Like, it's very easy. Everyone knows Klaviyo.
Oh, I get it now. All right. This is really helpful. Thank you. It's it's the thing that I'm really struggling with, trying to figure out how to communicate and help brands, because they just, promotions is fine, inbox is fine, spam is bad. Like, get out of spam.
Problem is as well, couple of takes on this. For me, the most positive signal that you can give any of these email providers, like a Gmail and Apple, like all these, they're looking at, like, are people engaging with the email? Are they replying? Are they doing something with that email? That's like the most positive signal. Like if they are hitting reply, sending back to something, that's like actually people want to engage with this brand or with this email address. So at a really high level, that's also what you want to aim for. Of course, if you have a list of 500,000, million and more, sending everyone and asking them to reply to you might not make customer support really happy. So it's something to really be aware of as well. But this is the one thing that you want to kind of like people maybe forwarding emails as well. Like these are the positive signals. So bring that into your strategy. Like we're moving into like this AI world. We're now seeing that emails are getting summarized. Like they're like in-betweens, proxies, where your emails are starting to live in. So people might be reacting to things without even clicking and opening up your emails. But they might see it and then go to the website and buy still. So there are, it's getting, I think, maybe a bit harder to do these things. So taking that into consideration as well. And I think there was another part where slipped my mind.
Can I just say episode 4 of Klaviyo Geeks, we talk a lot about it. Just saying.
I saw it, and that's why I wanted to like at least tease out, give a little teaser. All right, guys, we got 10 minutes, so I'm gonna dive deep into AI, but I'm gonna
All right, cool.
not that deep, obviously, because we got about 10 minutes. But I'll do my best. We are an AI company, but we are much more a machine learning company, right? Like Orita is a big data company. We process a ton of data for our brands every day, and we help them understand their segments. The focus for us is not the who signed up yesterday, right? Like everything you guys are talking about was awesome, right? It's like, okay, cool. Like here's how to do the flows. Here's how to do campaigns. We literally think about the medium and long-term people. How do we go find like lapsed customers and bring them back? Omar, kind of dovetailing with the LTV discussion. If somebody has cleaned their list, how do we go rescue revenue and like go find somebody who's really engaged, just wasn't engaged 6 months ago or 18 months ago, whenever you kind of like put them on pause. What I'm curious about from the two of you is you kind of mentioned Klaviyo AI, and there are obviously a ton of tools right now. What are the things that you are most interested in using AI for? Is it the creative side? Is it the ability to spin up a bunch of tests? Is it actually just like accelerating your own team? Like you're incredible marketers. What do you think other agencies, but more in particular, like other brands be thinking about, like where are the biggest points of leverage right now with AI?
Omar, do you want to start?
Yeah, so many angles to this. At one point, I would say it will help you be a bit quicker on things. Like if you have a good GPT or something set up, it allows you to create copy quicker. And still be on brand and really specific to your tone of voice and stuff like that. So you can train your systems to help you. But Klaviyo is also doing part of this already. I think I love the way that they're doing it. Really grabbing all the content that they can find and really creating a copy tone of voice, kind of like AI framework that you can actually tweak. You want to have warm, like have some additional things in there. But that's one part. Maybe on the creative, even Klaviyo is helping there. As again, like with Gen AI, like creating images on the fly or making tweaks to your image with just a couple of command prompts, so basically typing what you want to have change in the image. So I think that those parts are helping us be quicker with the work. What I actually hope for, and that's the part where I'm kind of looking into, like a lot of marketeers working within brands, I call it more of a checkbox. Now, I wouldn't say checkbox mentality, but they're living a checkbox life because they're so busy. Most of them are having to send emails, having to do something with a website. Maybe some actually also need to manage the social channels. So in the end, they end up checking boxes. Did I send a campaign? There's no time anymore to take a pause and zoom out and create a strategy. Like, are we doing the right things? And I think that area on like informing you what you need to do or coming up with ideas and suggestions in the data, that's actually where I hope it will move into more. Like MCP has been launched. We've been testing it out a little bit for some of the brands to do like reporting to help with those things that normally takes us like an hour to see if we can actually match the quality that we are getting out, or maybe help getting at least the details out and then creating a good report around those things. So I think that the MCP part and kind of like leveraging the data to spot things that actually would take a long time to get if you are doing it manually. That's where I see a lot of potential to, that I hope AI will actually guide us there more. So that's where I'm putting a lot of eggs into that basket right now.
It's helpful. Bogdan, for you, same sort of question, but curious, are there any tools, like any startups that you guys are playing with? Like, are you looking at the Copleys and the revamps and these, or is it like we're doing Klaviyo AI, or are you walking slowly right now and you're waiting for tools to improve? Kind of where are you on that journey?
I think AI for me nowadays, I've started my journey with AI mostly in creativity, use it for design, for copywriting, all that sort of stuff to improve our workflows. I think that's, everyone's doing it now. Everyone knows how to use AI to write copy. Everyone knows how to use AI to improve their designs. It's not really, rocket science in my opinion. To me, AI is best used, especially in our conversation, for analysis, for optimization. I see a huge potential with tools like Klaviyo where it can automatically identify for you, kind of like Orita, if I'm thinking about it, who to send to. Like, I think they always had this reputation repair, which was basically removing people from the segment. But that's not AI. That's just, hey, these people haven't opened so in a while. So, like it's just like a if and sort of rule.
This is the average model that we talked about before. In theory, it's right, but the devil's in the details, and you turn off a ton of people who would purchase.
I think it's more like looking further into it, where it's like, hey, we think this group of people, like you want to send to this segment, sure, but we recommend adding these on top because we think these are very likely to buy. That's from a segmentation standpoint. From an analysis standpoint, it's like you have this marketing agents, AI, that look at what they should do, but I wonder how much of it is just purely based on a knowledge base of information they've been dumped to, like it's a database of things that they look into and then they suggest things, and how much is it based on actual data from that brand. It's like, hey, we know that your customers often buy after this amount of time, or your customers often engage with this amount of content, so this is what we think you should do. I think that's where I would use AI, in terms of optimization and analysis, and not just like cookie cutter recommendations that I can get from a template or something. So that's my view on it.
KBoss, the couple of things that they showed on best send time specifically for profiles, and also with the product recommendation or segment recommendations, they're moving towards that. And I think that's going to be interesting because now all the data points are stored within one system. So that becomes really powerful to kind of like connect the dots. Even with marketing analytics, you're already seeing that they are adding these functionalities, like RFM analysis. A lot of it's still manual, and you need to make some tweaks to the RFM model to make sure it actually matches your brand. If anyone needs help with that, feel free to hit me up. That's something that I'm gonna probably put this online as a free giveaway anyway. But where I'm actually RFM with engagement signals, like recency, frequency, monetary value, like how recent somebody bought, those are all behavioral things based on order history. But if it's also engaging or adding like engagement signals, hey, they're opening emails, they're going to the website. Like if you can't combine those things, lapsing good customers that are getting warm again, those signals, that I think if we can get something that automates that will be amazing.
Omar, you and I haven't talked much about Orita, but literally we build AI segments on customer engagement signals specifically to like go explore this. So I'll
it's what I said earlier. When I was explaining what I was explaining, I was obviously, Orita does kind of, all of that already. So there you go.
It's like the instinct is there. Obviously, like there's so much more, right? There isn't a single solution for anything. All right, guys, we got 2 minutes. I think everybody knows where to find you, which is Klaviyo Geeks. If you're looking for amazing agencies, Polaris and EmailCon are wonderful. I guess my question is, in the last minute, you've given a ton of advice right now. Is there any last word that you want to share? Any high-level advice? It could be about going into BFCM. It could be walking into 2026 and making sure you're ready. Bogdan, I'm going to call on you first.
Maybe for BFCM, I think a couple of things that I would share. Think about profitability. I actually wrote a blog post on the Klaviyo blog about that. So most brands are like, hey, we need to push out discounts. No, you don't. And not for everything. So think about the profitability first, and then think about also what happens after that. So are you going to be trying to get those people back? Maybe instead of giving a big discount, give them something additional that they can claim within 30 days. That you also think about the retention side of things and updating all your flow. So go back and see, are you giving additional discounts during the same period, and maybe making a profitable sale unprofitable without knowing, like revamping that, going back. And yeah, if you have questions, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, on the website anyway.
Omar, that was wonderful.
Bogdan. I think, for my advice, it might be a little too late, but I guess it's never too late. I think, in terms of BFCM,
start early.
I think your biggest win won't come from a bigger discount. It will come from more preparation. I think brands just really, like, it sounds so cliche, but people really don't prepare enough. Start very early. Know exactly what offers you're going to have. Don't start any crazy new offers right when you have to launch your Black Friday. Just make sure that what you're going to send on the Black Friday day itself, it's tried and tested. It's going to convert. Don't think, oh, we're going to do a buy two, get two free on Black Friday, because, that's what we feel like. Prepare, warm up your lists, engage your list, try and do broad segmentation where you try and gradually increase your sending as, all the way to Black Friday itself. I would say obviously make sure your emails actually hit the inbox, but I think that's a little harder to achieve by just saying it. There's a lot involved in that. And don't be afraid, regardless of what brand you run, even if it's a, super exclusive premium jewelry brand, doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to just do a little more than what you think it's allowed, because we oftentimes make the mistake of thinking that, hey, if I send one email or 3 emails on Black Friday, people are going to be annoyed. We're making the assumption that those people actually see and acknowledge the emails. You know how many emails I get a day? Do you know what era we live in? Do you know how much content is produced every single day? To think that just because you send 3 emails, you're going to annoy that person is selfish. You think you're thinking too much of yourself. Most likely they'll ignore those emails. They won't even see it. So that's why, above all, I think people need to do a little more and send a little more emails, a lot more across more channels, because it's the only way you can cut through the noise. So that's it. I'm Bogdan from Email Kong and Klaviyo Geeks. Thank you.
I love it.
And I'm Omar from Polaris. So anyway, yeah.
Guys, this was so wonderful. Thank you both. I took a bunch of notes. I have like 40 follow-up questions that I'm very sad we only had an hour, which is kind of crazy to say.
We can do a part 2 of this.
Yeah,
we'll do a part 2 on Klaviyo Geeks, Aaron, and then you get to talk. Honestly, it would be great to have
I don't have anywhere near as many insights. So, it'll be a shorter episode, but it would still be fun.
It's truly never short with us.
Very, very generous with your time and with your advice. And I truly urge anybody who's in this ecosystem, check out Klaviyo Geeks. And I know you guys both said it, but running audits for brands and like helping them understand themselves, like you're both, maybe mentorship is the wrong word, but you both care deeply. And it's clear that you want to help brands. So I urge everybody to reach out to Bogdan and to Omar. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.